A warm welcome to another episode of Today's Parent, where we connect you with experts and provide you with information to make your parenting journey a bit more awesome. Today, we are talking about fatherhood, and we want to share tips with you on how you can be an awesome dad. In studio today, we have an expert, Mwangera Mutiga, who runs a platform called Papa Bear Kenya. He's passionate about equipping dads to be the best they can be. Mutiga, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I feel you don't talk about fatherhood enough, and we are so glad to have you here today.
Thank you. I mean, you're absolutely right. There's very little substance online or anywhere else about fatherhood.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
What inspired you to start Papa Bear Kenya? Tell us about it a bit.
So Papa Bear is a platform that helps to equip fathers to be the best fathers that they can be. Right now, there's a number of expressions of the platform. We have a YouTube channel, we have a Facebook page, and we also do face-to-face interactions with fathers.
Oh, you also have face-to-face?
We also do face-to-face interactions with fathers.
You meet what, monthly, yearly, weekly?
So it's sort of on demand, and every now and then I'd meet like a group of fathers, and we just talk about stuff and share.
Okay.
So it's more of a platform for men to share and to learn from each other's experiences, as opposed to me telling them this is how fathers are supposed to be.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it was inspired by just the lack of information. There's very little information out there. Before I started the channel, the YouTube channel, which started in January this year, I looked around for content on fatherhood. Imagine I didn't find anything.
And I can imagine local content for that matter.
Local content? Nothing. There's no one doing it. I know there's a brand that tried to do something a couple of years ago, Pampers, I think,
right,
around fatherhood. It was really nice, but it was maybe 1 or 2 videos, and that was
right.
it. But just a body of knowledge that's growing, that is consistent, that people can look to. There's really nothing much available online.
Okay.
You'll find books, but there's not much of that that's tailored for us, for Kenyan men. Kenyan fathers.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be a good challenge for me to try and do something. So the YouTube channel has been up since January this year.
Okay.
And yeah, we're going strong.
Well, what got you to this space? Did you feel that you needed more information as a dad?
Yeah.
Or we needed safer spaces for dads? What got you there?
So part of it, the vision behind this started a while ago. And by a while, I mean maybe almost 10 years ago. And what happened is when we had our firstborn, she's 11 now.
Okay.
But when she was born, I remember I had completely no idea what to do. I'd never seen a diaper. Seeing like this, I'd never seen.
Wow.
My wife bought these baby clothes, and it was so hilarious to me because those clothes are like for a doll, little
They're
small
very tiny.
little things, tiny things.
Very tiny at the beginning.
And just the first few months, the first few interactions that I had with my daughter were very shocking for me, because I had no idea. And my wife had a whole reading list of stuff that she'd read,
right,
books and all that. And
right,
she had me read a few of them, but they were tailored mainly for the mother. This is how you prepare, this is breastfeeding, this is this. So it was very tailored towards the mother, very little to do with dads.
That's true.
And I felt lost. I felt like, I don't know what to do, there's no one I can talk to. There's no place I can go and read something specifically about dads. I have all these emotions going on in my head about the future, about this little person who's going to be my responsibility. And I had no idea. I had no way to look for information.
So back in the day,
Yes.
think about my own dad.
Yeah.
Dads were very hands-off.
True.
One time, my mom was on maternity. She was at the hospital.
Yeah.
And she was left to take care of the kids. And the one thing he needed to do was to make a meal for us guys. I cannot forget that image of him and his brother,
Yes,
closing the curtain,
yes,
for them to make ugali, because they could not imagine anybody seeing them make ugali.
So it was a man thing that you can't be seen in the kitchen.
How?
That was the issue.
You cannot be seen in the kitchen. How has that changed today?
It's very interesting that you say that, Christine, because the truth is that we, as men, we grew up with fathers who were like that. Now, I think I'm a bit unique in the sense that my dad was very hands-on. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't.
Wow, that's different.
Not kitchen stuff. Yeah, but as he was engaged. He was part of every day. He would be there. He would look at our books and all that stuff. So he was a bit different. But I get the dynamic that you're talking about, because we've grown up in a space where, as a man, there's a certain way you're supposed to behave. There's certain things you're supposed to do. There's certain things that you cannot do. And so here you are, getting into this age where the expectation is completely different. Your wife is not going to let you just sit there and wait for the news that you have a boy. I mean, she's not going to want that. She's going to want you right there with her.
Yeah.
And it's confusing for guys because I don't know how men are supposed to behave. That's not how I was brought up. But this is the expectation. It's a different world. It's a different space to be in. And that's what makes it confusing because as a guy, you have a frame of reference based on what you grew up seeing, and then you have a reality that's very different. And that's difficult for guys to reconcile.
What do you think worked for, the old school dads
Yeah.
that the new dads can adopt from the old school guys?
Yeah. I think old school, our fathers, for all their faults, were very, they took care of us.
Right.
We knew that whatever happens, we're going to be taken care of. Money was always available.
Dad provides.
Dad provides. I'm not so sure that men today are all providing. I mean, there's a lot of guys who are, but there's a lot of guys who are not. So I think that's something that we can carry forward. Men being there for your families. The whole protectiveness. I mean, our dads could have been a bit aloof, perhaps.
do you think it's because they were providing and they were able to do it 100% and give them, it gave them a sense of extra power?
I think it did. I mean, they had the economic power. We were talking about this just now. The dad had the checkbook.
Yes.
Okay, it wasn't a checkbook, but he had the money.
That gives you a lot of power.
Exactly. You're the one who calls the shots in the house. Yeah. For many of us, our mothers were stay-at-home moms.
That's true.
Or if they are professionals, their professions, the man had more economic power.
Yeah.
Growing up.
Yeah.
And I know of cases where the opposite was true. But for a lot of us, that's the case. And so because you have economic power, you pretty much call the shots. You do whatever you want.
Right.
And there's some guys who would do the right thing and treat their families well. The others who would do the wrong and just, mistreat their families.
Yeah.
And they're paying for it now, which is another story for another day. But the point is that as men, we were raised in a certain way, and we have to deal with different realities now that we are raising children in our day and age, in our reality.
And what are the realities right now? Being a modern dad, with everything that is happening right now, technology, women have advanced in their careers and truly progressed, and they're sitting at the table making decisions with their own resources.
Yes.
How are men, how are fathers?
Yeah.
I just wonder how they're even coping. How do they cope?
That is so true. I was going to say unfortunate, but then it's not unfortunate that women have economic power. That's actually a good thing. But I think for men getting into this space where now the question is, what is my purpose as a man?
Yeah, what is the role of the father today?
In this day and age.
What's his role?
Back in the day, the man's role was to provide, But now, women can provide just as well as guys, even better in some cases.
Yeah.
A woman can rock up and she has money. She can do what she wants to do.
And possibly take care of you.
Yes. There's some men who are taken care of. But that's a story for another day. So I think there's an identity problem where for some of us, for some men, it's a challenge being able to identify what your role is in this day and age. The reality is that the woman can, and often does, operate without you, without your help, without needing you. So if you're not needed as a man, then what are you there for? Are you just a sperm donor? For some people, that's just it. But for a man, there's need for a sense of purpose, a sense of utility, that you're useful, that your people, someone wants you around, someone has some value, gets some value from you. And I think that's part of the challenge as men. We've also grown up in an age where there's a lot of men who've been raised by single mothers. Nothing wrong with single motherhood. But then what happens is, for lack of a male role model to look up to, then there are certain things that you miss out on as a man. Now, some men end up getting it later on in life. Life teaches them hard lessons or whatever. But for a lot of guys, there is a certain way that they see parenting because their frame of reference is, I was raised by one person, a mother.
What makes it different?
It's different because you don't know what a man is supposed to do.
Despite having uncles and other male figures around you,
unless your uncle lives in the same house
with you. Of course not, yeah.
It's not going to be easy for you to see what a male role model looks like, You'd have to live with someone to understand how that person lives or how that person operates. And so if you've grown up your whole adult life or your whole childhood without a man in the house, then there's a certain way that you view manhood, which is deficient in a sense. It's like there's something that you've not seen. And so the man comes into the family or he's raising a family with that frame of reference. So to him, the woman is sort of the one who makes all the decisions, calls all the shots.
Interesting.
And so he ends up being kind of passive because, hey, that's what's supposed to happen. I mean, me as far as I know,
mom make all the decisions.
Of the house. So that's a dynamic that you have to kind of deal with.
Right.
And like I say, there are a lot of men who go through life, and life changes them, and they end up taking the roles that they're supposed to play. But for a lot of men, that's a problem.
Okay.
You don't have a frame of reference that shows you what a man is supposed to do.
So list it for us. What's the role of your modern dad today?
I think the role of the father has not changed. In some families, the mother is playing the role of both, but I think the role of the dad is clear. I think the dad's role is to provide a sense or a model of manhood to the children, both for the girls and the boys.
Okay.
For the girl, they say that your father is your first love.
Absolutely.
They talk about daddy's girls and all. So your dad is to you is like a superhero. He's the one who shows you what a man is supposed to be like. Same for the boys. That the boy needs to look up to his dad and say, "That's what I want to be when I grow up."
Right.
Now, I think the role of the man is to provide unique experiences to their children, and I'm talking about heterosexual, typical man-woman family.
Right.
It's not always the case, but in a situation where you have both parents in the picture, I think the man's role is to provide obviously financial cover where necessary, where relevant. In some cases, it's the other way around, but I think that's partly man's role to provide.
Partly or should be?
It should be man's role to provide.
100%, 50%, 80%?
I think it needs to be seen. He needs to be seen to be providing.
Right.
Now, how that works, how that looks to the kids, it needs to look like the man is providing. You might have a different arrangement between the two of you.
But it needs to look that
Like
the man is the one providing.
Yes, I think that's important. And that people will disagree with me. But I think it's important that the man is seen to be the one providing, or at least is participating very actively in that process. That's number one. Number two, the man needs to provide values to the children.
What kind of values?
Good values that will help them in life, that will help them develop convictions. Yeah? I'm getting technical now. You see, the thing about convictions, think about convictions as things that come from the inside out. It's what you believe inside.
Like the value system,
and what it
like a
shows.
good value system.
A good value system. And a value system, one that comes from the inside, does not depend on what's happening around you. So
Right.
let me give you an example. If you're driving around down the bypass and you hear someone saying, there are no police, you can do 200 if you wanted to. A value system, a conviction would say, it's not safe to do 200 on the highway, no matter how hot my car is. I'm going to stick to 100 because it's safe.
And
That's
it's the
a
right thing
conviction.
to do.
It's the right thing to do.
And it's the right thing to do.
Now, the opposite of that is standards that are imposed on you. So as soon as those standards are not there, then you're free to do whatever you want. And that's the difference between convictions and standards.
Right.
A conviction comes from the inside, standard comes from the outside, it's imposed on you. So the man's role is to provide convictions, or to provide an environment where a child can develop convictions of their own, which are good values, which are helpful for them, which will help them survive, and not just survive, but thrive in life later on. So that's a very important role for the man to do. I'm not saying that mothers can't do that, but I think coming from the father, from the dad, it has that much more power and authority.
Right.
I think it's also very important for men to provide unique experiences to their children. Because you see, the thing about it is that in life we go through the grind. The stuff that we do every day, it just becomes a routine. You wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you shower, whatever.
The usual.
Go to school. There's a grind. There's something that becomes a rhythm as you go
Right.
along. I think it's important that men provide a uniqueness or a change to that grind, which is associated with them. So what new experience can they go through, which would be a teaching lesson for those children, but it's coming from the dad.
What examples could you give?
Let me give you one from my own life. One of the things that that happens every now and then is that we go for walks with my kids in the estate. Yeah.
Okay.
And sometime back, it was in the evening, it was around 6:30. It was getting dark, and we had crickets. Whatever sound they make in the grass, right? And we'd hear them and we'd walk up to them, and they would keep quiet. So my son asked me, okay, what is that? What is that that's making noise? I told him it's a cricket. He says, where is it? I said, it's in the grass. Can you show me? So we go up to where we thought we had the sound, but it goes quiet. And so we got into this whole discussion about insects and different types of insects, and why do crickets make noise at night? Why don't they make noise during the day? What kind of what makes them stop making noise when people come? There's a whole lesson that happened there.
Right.
Impromptu, it wasn't planned. I hadn't planned to do it and all that, but it is a very unique lesson, and I keep being reminded about that by my son, even several years later. And I think it's important that men play that role, that you're the one who the kids associate with certain unique experiences. That it wasn't something planned, but I went through that with dad, and it was wow, it was amazing.
That's
If you
a
think about some of the
beautiful
things
thing.
that you remember about your dad, it's probably stuff that wasn't planned. It's
Yeah.
just some random thing that happened.
That's true, that's true.
And he imparts knowledge and information on you, which informs you for the rest of your life. I think that's part of dad's role.
That's true.
Yeah.
You know, the one thing I'm sure, I'm not a dad, but I'm thinking the one thing that possibly a lot of dads struggle with is presence, a very important P, because like you say, we are on the grind, we are hustling, we have so much to do,
Yeah.
time is limited.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the one important thing we need to do is to spend quality time,
Yeah. Yeah.
like you've emphasized, with our children.
Yeah, I think actually I say this phrase that there's nothing like quality time. There's just time. Kids don't think about that was a special occasion, that dad is going to do something special with us on Sato. They just think about time. It's just time. You being present is quality time, regardless of what you're doing with them. And I think that so many times as men, we want to do like really big, splashy, impressive,
Yeah.
memorable stuff that we forget that you being present is as special to the child as you taking
Them to
your
Mombasa or to
somewhere.
Dubai or doing
Yes.
something grand.
Yeah, that awesome. It's nice, and they'll probably remember that they went to Dubai. But what they'll remember is that we went to Dubai with dad, and even if we had gone to the shop, we had walked to the shop with dad, it would
With
have had
dad.
the same effect.
The
as going to
moment
Dubai.
is what matters.
Yes,
I hear
There's
you.
nothing like quality time. There's
I
just
hear you.
time. Just spend time with your kids. That's what matters.
We're going to take a short break.
Okay.
And when we come back, I'm sure you'll share more with the dads,
Yeah.
overcoming these challenges when it comes to modern fatherhood and more.
Sure.
In today's episode, we are tackling fatherhood and how fathers can be more present and do a better job. In studio, we have Mwongera Mutiga, who runs Papa Bear Kenya, sharing tips with you, especially if you're watching as a dad. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to today's episode of Today's Parent, where we are talking about navigating fatherhood. And before we went on the break, there's a question that came in from Amos, and Amos is asking, how can I cope as a father in today's age where I feel my wife and I at 50-50? How do I manage the power struggles of just navigating fatherhood and being a man? What's your take on that?
Wow. It's interesting that I think a lot of men have their identity in their ability to provide.
Right.
That's all you're bringing to the table, just your ability to provide, and your manhood is limited
Tied
to
to
that.
provision and protection and
Nothing else, which is a mistake if you ask me, because I think men offer a lot. I mean, I think
Totally
men
agree
have
with you.
so much to offer to a relationship, to a family, to a woman. But if we limit it to just my ability to provide, then we're shooting ourselves in the foot. And the truth is, the ability to provide changes over time.
True.
I could be doing okay now. 5 years later, I lose my job or my business goes south. And
or the other way, it will happen to mom.
it could. So I think we need to move away from this thing of money talks, money is the only dynamic, money is the only measure of success
Or power.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's not just in the family. The society as a whole gives so much value to money and the show of money and the what is seen to be wealth, that nothing else seems to matter. And that's a
Right.
problem. Now, I think my take on that is that as a man, as men, we need to have a clearer sense of identity. We need to be clear about who we are and what we do or what we can do and what we're all about. And what is my vision for life as a whole. Even before I become a father, before I become a husband, before I do anything else.
Who am I?
Who am I? What am I trying to do with this life that I have been given? And if I don't have that clear, then I'll keep being blown around by these winds. I'll keep hearing things. I'll keep feeling insecure.
Yeah.
Every time my wife does well, I'll be like, hey, now she's starting to show me.
Yeah.
I'm seeing horns. If you don't have a clear sense of identity, a clear sense of vision for your life, then anything goes. And I think that's where it starts from.
But how can a man do that? Invest in self-awareness, becoming more clear
Yeah.
of who they are, where they're going. Do they need to sit down to do a mission vision? Are there platforms where they can, plug into?
Yep.
Because I know it's important, but how can you get men, being the Papa Bear himself, get dads to do it?
I think that's you've talked about. I mean, it's like you have the script. The thing is that men need to be deliberate about planning their lives and planning what's coming ahead for them. Men need to see themselves as contributing to the world and to life as a whole. Men need to ask themselves this question: if I died today, who would miss me, and what would stop, or what legacy, what would I have left behind
Right.
as a man?
Right.
I think every man needs to ask that question and needs to answer it very, very honestly.
Their legacy that they will leave behind.
Yes. What are you leaving behind? What are you building? What are you working on that you're building? What are you putting together? For some people, it's a business. For some people, it's a career. For some people, it's a family. But as a man, you need to ask yourself, what am I building? And once I'm clear about what I'm building or what I want to build,
Right.
then I spend time doing that. And it's largely a self-awareness thing, yes. And I think it's just it's a man thing. It's a thing that men, I think, are intrinsically designed to do or to think. We're always thinking, what is it that I'm trying to do? We always have that burden on our hearts. How do I matter? What is important? Who will think anything of me once I'm gone? I think as men, we always think along those lines. But I think it's very important that that's the first step. What are you building that is going to outlive you?
Okay.
Once you have that, and then it's clear in your head, then you won't be moved by what people are telling you, because you know what you're trying to do. If your wife succeeds and does much better than you, then it's good.
You're
Good
secure
for
in
her.
yourself.
You're secure because you know what you're trying to achieve. Of course, there'll be times of insecurity because we're human beings. But I think having that foundation that I know this is what I'm about, this is what I'm trying to do.
Okay.
Unfortunately, very few men take that next step. So you keep thinking about it, but you never take the step to say, so, okay, fine. So I'm going to sit down and I'm going to spend the next 2, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years being clear about what that is. And then moving forward. And you see, it's not something that you have to isolate yourself and spend a year in a monastery somewhere. You can actually do this as you go about your everyday work. Yeah. And life sort of changes as you go along. So I think that's very important, that men need to be clear about what they're all about. And that deals with the issue of insecurity that we see happening in relationships all over the place.
You're not talking about challenges. Peer pressure in fatherhood and in manhood. I'm sure it's there.
Yeah.
How does a dad navigate, peer pressure in fatherhood that your wife has given birth, for example?
Yeah.
All your friends are out there. You can literally see that 10-year-old on the table.
Yeah.
Your wife has just had a CS, and the temptation to go out is so strong. But the right thing to do is to be here right now.
Yes.
How can a father deal with peer pressure in that space?
Yeah. You see, the thing about peer pressure, Christine, is that everybody has peer pressure. Even my folks are grandparents, they're in their 70s, but they also have peer pressure. Because there's things that they look around at their friends are like, hey, where's your son? Me, I have grandchildren. My grandchildren go to this school. What about you? So peer pressure is a standard in life. You'll always have peer pressure. I think for men, for fathers, you have to realize that peer pressure will never end, and that you have to teach your children to deal with it. So you have to think of yourself as a model. That if you are going to give in to these pressures and to this whatever's happening around you, your kids are watching you and they're going to do exactly what you're doing. They don't do what you say, they do what you do.
That's true.
So seeing yourself as a model is one way of dealing with peer pressure. That you realize, by the way, I can give into this, I can go and hang out with my boys, but my kids are watching me and they're going to do exactly what I do. Would I be happy if I saw them do what I do?
Right.
And if they do what I do and I'm not happy, then I need to stop doing it, or I need to do something different. So peer pressure is a standard. Everybody will deal with it at some point in their lives. I think, unfortunately for us men, we're very driven, we're competitive as men. So we're driven by the need to outdo the next guy or to look good in the eyes of a chick somewhere or your wife or whatever. So that peer pressure is especially intense on us guys, I think. I think women are less, I think it's there. Let me not minimize it. But I think for men it's very intense because we're very competitive.
Very true.
So peer pressure is another issue that we deal with. So I think the way to deal with it is the people who are watching me are going to do what I do. They're not going to do, I'm not going to tell them, don't do this, and then I go and do it and expect them to do what I've said.
Yeah, they'll do exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
And even in their own homes.
Yes. They said that you can drink a glass of wine and you'll be okay. But your daughter will see you drinking a glass and think, oh, wine, and she'll drink a bottle. So they don't do what you say, they do what you do, and they multiply it because they think, hey, you're doing it, so it's okay. So I think that's one way to deal with peer pressure.
All right. So talking about modeling good behavior, now that we have a few minutes to go.
Okay.
How can somebody be a good father? How do you model, excellent behavior as a dad?
I think the first step is, and I don't sound harsh, but as men we need to grow up.
Grow up.
We need to grow up. we need to get rid of the way we do things in the past.
Okay.
We need to think of ourselves as being a role model, that you're trying to show somebody a different way of doing things. And that means you have to let go of some of the stuff that you deal with. Some of the things that you do that are wrong, you need to stop doing them. I mean, it's really that simple. Just grow up. Stop doing those things. If you know you're temperamental, you know yourself. You know that you're hard to deal with. You can be hard-headed, even you. You can be, whiny or whatever it is. You stop doing that.
Right.
Just stop. Just grow up. Right. One of the things that I had to deal with was there's certain things that I don't like eating. Like I don't like eating githeri, for example. Can't stand it. I did high school for 4 years.
Enough of it.
Enough for my
Enough.
life. So I swore the day I get my own house,
I will never.
ever, done.
And then Madame puts it on the timetable.
Yes. And she's like, wow, this stuff, you cook it once, it's food for a week. I'm like, man. But so what happens is then now my kids are rejecting certain foods because
Daddy doesn't eat
Daddy
githeri.
doesn't
Why
eat
are we
stuff.
eating it?
So, yeah. And I realized I have to grow up, I have to start doing those things which I might think are not comfortable for me, but I have to do them for the sake of these guys. Because if I don't do it for them, then they're going to grow up thinking that life is a certain way and it's not. So I think that's one step. We as men have to change the way we've done things. We have to realize that we are also growing up as adults, and we need to grow up faster
Right.
for the sake of our kids.
Of course.
And that's part of how we model our godly behavior. I think we need to change our information-seeking behavior. If something happens to a guy's car, you know what he's going to do? He's going to dig deep. Let me tell you, he will dig deep. He will find that garage in the corner of some godforsaken place which sells that unit that he's looking for.
And he will find
He
it.
will find it. He will dig for information, he will find it. Because that car is important to him. And it is important to him. But how about we apply the same to our kids and to our fatherhood? Am I going to dig deep and find out information about an issue? If someone has told me something happening in school, am I going to dig deep and find out information about that? Or am I
Right.
just going to say it's mom's job? So I think there's a way in which we have to change our information-seeking behavior as men and look for information just as much as we would for any other thing that matters to us. And it's about priorities, Are your children really your priority? And sometimes you say they are, but we don't.
But we
always
don't act
like
it.
they are. I think another thing that happens is that as men we need to be more present. And by present, when we talk about presence already, but it's not just about your physical presence, but it's about being in the moment. And the thing about what some of us do is we engage in presentism. So I'm there. You said you wanted me to be there for dinner. I'm here.
Yeah.
But
You're
I'm
on your
my
phone.
the whole time. I'm doing my deals. I'm chatting.
It's
doing
like I'm
whatever it is
reading
I
your
do.
mind. I mean,
Sync. And that's the thing. We need to stop being present. Presentish.
yeah.
We
That
need to be
physically
physically
present, but not present.
That's presentism. We're just there because we need to be there physically, but you're not there mentally,
Yeah.
emotionally, in any other way. So I think being present, being in the moment, and that doesn't just apply to fatherhood, but in life in
Yeah,
general.
that is true. That's very true.
If you're in a meeting or if you're talking to somebody, be present. Listen to what that person is saying and have a genuine conversation. Don't be thinking about the next deal, the next move. What are you going to do after this?
Right.
Be present. I think that's part of what men need to do and help them go on. And I think that the truth is there's a lot of guys doing their best and they're doing as well as they can, and it's not easy. I'm a dad too. I've been a dad for 11 years, and it's not easy. I'm not an expert. I'm not perfect by any standard. But I'm learning, and there's a lot of stuff that I've learned over the years. Some of it by looking for information, some of it through hard lessons,
Yeah.
mistakes that I've made. But I think it's very important that as guys, we are as involved with our kids as possible.
Mutiga,
Yes.
we have to come to the end of today's show.
Okay.
We thank you so much for coming to share. And I know there has to be a dad out there who wants to know how to plug in into Papa Bear,
Okay.
your platform.
Yes.
How can they find you?
So we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. It's Papa Bear Kenya.
Okay.
So if you're out there, you want to learn more about fatherhood, just log into Facebook, log into YouTube, Papa Bear Kenya. Like, subscribe. There's a number of videos there. There's quite a bit of content ongoing there. And yeah, let's have the conversation going. Yeah, as we go forward.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And wishing you the very best.
Thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing. Your space is needed.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we come to the end of today's episode of Today's Parent, where we talked about navigating fatherhood. I hope you found these tips that were shared by Mr. Mwongera Mutiga to be helpful. As a dad, let us be deliberate. Be the best that you can be by taking advantage of now, by being present, so that your kids can be awesome in the future. Build them now by being present and being deliberate. I can't emphasize that enough. I have been your host, Christine Casina. This has been today's Parent, and it's been a pleasure having you. We've been here in studio at Little Cribs, the home of exciting, durable, and exciting kids furniture. If you're looking for parenting information, go to www.supermamas.co.ke, and we look forward to having you next time.